Senator Francis Heyliger, you had a point of information?
Yes.
You recognize.
I want to put this on the record that the last time we were here with JFL, the identical request that Senator Saru just made, I requested on this floor, and to this date, I have not received it. So when I'm hearing her say they will readily make it available, I would have liked it a couple of months ago. So this request, I literally had it on my list to ask for an update for it. So I'm going to hope that this time that Senator Saru's request and my request will actually be followed. Thank you so much.
And recognize Senator Alma Francis Heyliger for her 7 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, the people of this territory. Good morning to listeners and testifiers alike. I was on the island of St. Croix on Monday attending the funeral of old-timer Mr. Samuel Garnett, and I would say it was a beautiful homegoing service. And in a lot of conversations I had, the discussion of health and wellness and this hospital came up while I was over there. And one of the funny things, people are very concerned about the timeline. And the first question I want to ask to the interim CEO, in your testimony, you spoke about 18 to 24 months for the completion of this project. I first want to ask, who came up with this timeline? How realistic is this timeline? And has the clock started on this timeline?
And so, if I may, Senator, for clarification, the 18 to 24 months projection was for the design of the new JFL. That's the permanent hospital.
Mm-hmm. And when are we supposed to be completed? I understand, because my second question has to do in regards to the plot and where we are for the property, because we did pass legislation to give the additional funding for that. So I'm asking you specifically about that project with the design. So we're only dealing with the design. Do you have any ideas for the overall completion?
And so the engineer firm flag that was selected for the design is they project. Those are the industry experts, and typically a hospital design build project. Sorry, a hospital design for it takes approximately 18 to 24 months. That's just the industry standard.
So the other part of the question I want to ask, so I just want for clarity, the public is being told that it's going to take potentially 2 years to lay out the design of JFL, the reconstructed building that we potentially are going to be put on this new plot. I believe it's number 7 at Diamond Ruby. Is that
Yes,
what we're being told?
Okay. Correct. Yes,
the second part I want to, thank you. The other part I want to find out, with JFL North, give me the definitive timeline as to when that one is going to be completed.
And so, as I shared in this testimony, Senator Heyliger, the definitive timeline is really predicated on the selection of that vendor to do the construction for that mechanical building. So until that selection is complete, that contractor would then project, based on their construction schedule, the completion date.
And where exactly are you with the selection of that vendor?
And so I will defer to Ms. Thomas to give you very specific updates. I believe we did submit the schedule in our testimony for your reference.
The RFP is scheduled to come in on May the 13th, in another couple of weeks.
The other question, and a lot of these questions I want to ask because I want the public to hear it for themselves, okay? It's one thing when we're sitting here shuffling through paperwork and we're in awe of a lot of these timelines, but the public isn't aware of what's really going on. The other thing I want to ask you, do you believe that your working relationship with O'Brien/TSG is in the best interest of this project? And if your answer is no, what other alternatives do you think might have been better suited to make sure that this project moved forward in a timely fashion?
And so, as we shared, because of the niche specificity of a hospital healthcare project, you really do want resources that are well versed in all things healthcare bills. And so the work that they have done has been essential to the operations in terms of transitioning operations from JFL Current to JFL North. We look at really continuity of service in terms of patient touch experience and the programs that we're developing for policies and procedures, because at the end of the day, this is very specific to CMS and being able to meet the regulatory standards. We do find that there are other opportunities specific to our revenue cycle and our IT interconnectivity that we're going to perhaps have to solicit for outside of Witt O'Brien or TSG. Just to ensure that we're as detailed in addressing all of those
Somebody
operational
hold my
issues.
time. Thank you. The question that I asked, do you think it is, you shared with me what all they've done. I want to know if this partnership is in the best interest of the project. Somebody could come in and do a lot of things, but in the best interest of the timeline and getting things completed, all I needed to know, not telling me what all they've done because we could read a lot of it. You're saying to us you believe this is the best partnership for this project to move along. Yes or no?
I would say yes, specific to what they've accomplished.
Thank you.
1 minute.
How many change orders has this project had, and what has been the reception, whether through FEMA, et cetera, in regards to the amount of change orders that has happened?
Can you repeat the question, Senator? How many change orders from the life of the project?
Yes.
I would have to get the specific number to you. I couldn't tell you offhand how many change orders
30
throughout
seconds.
the life of this project offhand.
One of the things in regards to finalizing, as my colleague was just discussing a timeline you said of 2022, do you think that other things could be done in regards to possibly having around the clock construction for the completion of certain projects? I know that when some projects needs to be done exponentially in a time frame, for example, you have individuals or projects, one shift works in the day, another shift works at night. It doesn't really matter because it's supposed to be completed within a time frame, and you negotiate that also with the contractors to make sure that it's done within a time frame, to include even at times if you have to pay additional for night differential, which something I personally don't believe in, but I'm trying to understand, has that been looked at as an option to speed up the process?
Absolutely. And so within the context of our RFP, we actually weighted that as one of the, in our point system, we actually rated that significantly in terms of the vendor who is going to be able to give additional resources to finish most expeditiously. And so that absolutely has been weighted as an option. And as I shared with you, we did include Mr. Vera from CMA, who's doing the design for any of those questions that you may have as well.
Okay. And last question, Mr. Chair, if I may ask.
You may wrap up, Senator. Go ahead.
Thank you. Earlier, when you guys were here last time, I made a request for the very reason I saw the importance of understanding how this project has been moving along, because a lot of the responses we were getting is we weren't here at the time. Do you find that it's important that keeping a job matrix from the beginning to the end of this project so you can identify issues and problems so you don't repeat them is imperative to the finalization in a timely manner of this project? And I'm going to, on the record again, request this information so we could get a better understanding of what's happening with this project.
Yes, Senator Heyliger. So I would agree. Yes, it is imperative that we do keep very stringent records, not only because it's a federal project. Along the life of the project, there are different decisions that are made. And when persons separate from the project and we have to go back through the history in terms of determining what happened when, it's imperative that we can really speak to who is accountable. So I would affirm that. Absolutely.
For your indulgence, Mr. Chair. Thanks for answering the questions.
Thank you very much, Senator
Thank
Francis Heyliger. Thank you. At this time, the chair will recognize Senator Francis Heyliger. You're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. I'm sitting here continuously feeling like I'm dealing with deja vu, because it just feels like we're repeating a session I've already attended. But nonetheless, I'm here to do the people's work. I'm going to ask the question. I'm looking at all the situations where every 5 seconds I'm hearing acting this, interim this, acting that, nurses that are contractors, nurses that are human resources director. At some point, is this hospital going to align itself in people actually doing what they're supposed to be doing when it refers to the health and wellness of the people of this territory? Because I'm a little bit concerned that they're running on fumes and they're making or utilizing people to do so many other things other than what they're actually supposed to be doing. And that greatly concerns me. Don't get me wrong that I don't think people have the capabilities to do multiple things. But when you're in a field specialized when it comes to the health of the people of this territory, I would really like for you to be focused on that. What is the reason or rationale between so many people in acting positions at this hospital? Interim chief executive officer, can you share a little bit as to why this is still happening?
It's kind of a loaded question, Senator Heyliger. I'm appointed to the board. They make the determination to who as the chief executive officer of the organization. As far as the persons that we have hired under my purview, I have made persons permanent in that regard. But that's essentially it. I
don't know. Okay. I totally understand. Do you feel, and I know several of my other colleagues touched on this, and I'm really trying to focus on people's health and wellness. Do you believe that having to do so many other duties other than focus on the health and wellness of the people of this territory, do you think this is in the best interest of the hospital?
Senator Heyliger, it has been a true honor and a privilege to serve my community in this capacity as the interim chief executive officer. I will say that the average CEO will never know what it is to build a facility, far less manage two concurrently. It is the mission that I was asked to step up to. It is what we endeavor to do well every day. It is absolutely, it does not come with no challenges. The best I can say to you is that when we have needed to perhaps outsource to supplement, because one of the challenges that we've been very transparent with is when we do attempt to hire locally, we often don't get the respondents with the specific experience that we need based on the job description, based on the experience, based on the credentials. And so what we're finding is as we move forward with these major build projects is that we will have to outsource certain components. And when we do have to outsource, we make sure that in the scope of work, we include that we do want a modicum of local talent within those solicitations. And so to your point, it's a lot, I would agree, but we do our best every day. And we're going to continue to do our best to serve our community.
Sure, I am sure you are doing your best, but that is not the question I asked you. And I appreciate that very well politically correct answer. But the question I actually asked, do you think this is in the best interest of the hospital? That's all I asked.
Which piece specifically, Senator?
Do you think having to do multiple roles instead of focusing on the health and wellness of the people of this territory, as opposed to having so much of the staff having to be doing multiple jobs and now becoming contractors, do you think that is in the best interest of the people of the territory?
Now becoming which contractor, Senator?
Okay. Are you doing multiple roles outside of focusing on health issues, health concerns of the hospital, such as now building hospitals? Do you think having to split your focus of not only focusing on the health and wellness of the people of this territory to now basically doing a multiple role of potentially building a hospital, do you think that is in the best interest of the people of this territory?
Senator, as the CEO of this hospital that I manage and I operate on a daily basis, I have essentially transitioned the operations of GFL North to another team. I do have oversight and we do report up to the board, but that's the nature of hospital bills. If you're a CEO of an organization, you're going to hire a firm, or you're going to hire components, or you're going to outsource those components that need additional support. And that's exactly what we did.
My last question quickly. When we spoke a few weeks ago, there was a lot of issues in regards to JFL North as it relates to privacy, the RAMs, ADA compliancy, HIPAA Act. Can you explain to me if some of these things have been fixed, improved upon in preparation for its opening?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question, Senator. And so our current project management team are really the ones that were instrumental in identifying the regulatory guidelines, as FEMA, or I should say even the vendor Apton, did not recognize some of those niche specific requirements of this build project. It was actually the current project manager that has the clinical background that was able to identify those deficits. And so based on where we are right now in the project, yes, we've been able to complete those essentially ADA compliance specific regulatory oversight projects specific to the industry standard.
Thank you very much.